Question for a minute. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Cheryl Nolan, the HR Governmental EDC Director, and with me today is Ms. Heather Smith. She is our training supervisor with the Governmental HR Department, and Deb Pine is our cultural training specialist. We've been asked to come today, and I'd like to share with you, us, the training department. We'd like to share what it is we do, what we've been doing, and what we've expanded as far as our training department as a whole. Today, we're going to lay out some details of what our orientation sessions look like, our professional development courses, our customized trainings, our annual trainings, different types of services in that we've always offered within the HR department, training department, but additional ones that even the new board members may not be aware of, but even the existing ones. So we're really glad to be here today. We've been asked to come and give an overview of the HR Governmental EDC Training Department. So if we're okay to kick it off, there is a portion there where we can ask questions at the end. We're going to go ahead and we'll go through. Ms. Deb, will you say our native name again for us, please? Do you have the microphone? That's the one.
All right, Bushu Kinawea, Anishna Nangwa, Gitchinan the Mumpi, Debram, Pine Indigenous Cause, Nimki Dodam, Bao Ting and Donjaba. I asked how everybody's doing today, and I wanted to let you know that I was happy to be here with you. And this is the Kinamage Win training place, which is the teaching place. Kinamage Win means teacher. And if I said Kinamage Enene, that means like a male teacher, or Kinamage Kwe, which is a female teacher. And really, the interesting thing about our language is Kinamage Win actually means teaching, but it really means, in the terms of pre-contact, somebody that sits down and scratches in the dirt to show what it is that they're trying to explain. So today, the main things that I work with for training would be orientation and our annual training. I was actually hired as a cultural training specialist, and this was, if I'm speaking about this, this is pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, they hired me as a cultural training specialist because we had a high number of people coming into the tribe that had no background working with the Native community, no understanding of our tribe, and I was the person that was explaining the multi-layered, multi-dimensional entity that we are, and explaining to them our history, our background, and how we cover from Marquette, Escanaba over to the islands, which is Sugar Island, Drummond Island, Nebish Island, and Mackinac Island. A lot of times I don't go into ceremony, and so I give everybody a free pass almost to say, you know, this is your chance to ask anything that you've wanted to know about being a Anishinaabe, or if you're new to the tribal community or to the Sioux or to the UP, any questions that you may ask that I can help you with. At this time, you're more than welcome to ask those questions without the formal process of offering SEMA. So, but I do give them the heads up about things like, well, if you're going to go visit traditional medicine, there is a protocol. You do have to offer SEMA and a small gift. And I'm kind of like the icebreaker, and I'm also the person that gives everybody the lay of the land as to who we are and what we are. I give them information about sovereignty. I also let them know that, you know, there are different parts of the tribe and how we're set up between EDC, governmental, and casino operations, and how that's broken out. Let me think what else. One of the important things that we implemented pre-COVID was the talking circle. And after COVID, I can tell you that the talking circle became a very important tool to help healing the community and our tribal employee membership that came in. And that was the part of the ceremonial life that I had to be prepared for, because I didn't see that coming, how important the talking circle was going to be for them. The other thing that we did too pre-COVID was to implement the connection of not only utilizing the 7 grandfather teachings in orientation, but connecting it to how to prevent sexual harassment and harassment in the workplace. Because fortunately for us as a tribe, there's a lot of people that come to work for us, and they come from JKL. They already have the foundational understanding of the 7 grandfather teachings, and you can tell them, you know, listen, if you're following these 7 grandfather teachings, there's no room for harassment or sexual harassment. It doesn't go love, wisdom, and humility, and oh, by the way, sexual harassment. There's no place for it in there if you're following these 7 teachings. So the fun thing about coming to be in this job was how it has evolved in the last 7 years. Initially, when I got hired, it was a 6-hour day. COVID and the loss of our learning management system caused it to move into reduced classes to a 2.5-hour period to 3 hours, depending on the class. And the nice thing about it is that because of my background and skills with graphic design, I was able to jump over into e-learning and doing voiceover. And that actually meets the needs of the people that come in front of us, because a lot of people have a very short attention span due to being on the phone, watching TikToks and social media. So again, they really appreciate the fact that it has gotten condensed and a shorter, faster version for them. E-learning has been very effective at also delivering consistent messaging. So when we have issues where people end up in an appeal situation and they go, well, I wasn't told that, I can point to an e-learning where I go, yes, you can, you have been told, absolutely been told this, everybody's been told the same thing. This is the jumping off point for everybody coming into the tribal organization. So we're all on the same page at that.
I think we'll cover more into once we go to the other annual and the management and the customized.
Cheryl, you need a mic.
Yeah.
I keep thinking we have the second one here.
Here, I'm going to let you have this in a minute. What, before we move on, the other thing that was nice that we have to do, because you guys, or the tribal board, and I'm not sure when this happened, passed a law years and years ago that said every year everybody has to get customer service sexual harassment training for the organization to prevent lawsuits, of course. And also, we included inclusion, diversity, and belonging. So I had the great honor of delivering inclusion, diversity, and belonging from a Native perspective. And I was able to implement the teachings that I was given as a young person to help get people to understand, you know, that everybody has a place on this circle as Anishinaabe people. So that's my part of it at this point, and I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl.
Thank you, Deb. Sorry about that. I always thought there was a second one on the table. So if we go through the quick overview of the topics within the training department themselves, the next page, it gave us a brief summary, a little bit about our team, and Deb touched base on the orientation. I'm going to have you go back one so I can make a recognition to the team members. Heather here is our training supervisor. She's been with our department for 3.5 years now, over 15 with the company itself. You'll notice down on the photo also, alongside Deb, is Catherine Carter. We were very excited to not only meet her, select her to do the Sioux Tribe Chairman's internship with the HR department, but she came aboard and stayed aboard with us as our training coordinator. So that's Catherine Carter. She's part of the intern program in the summer. And then go on to the next page. Orientation, Deb gave a synopsis of how the orientation has grown over time to include the cultural diversity, the talking circle, the 7 grandfathers. The list in front of you are some of the key areas that are covered during our orientation sessions. And then you'll notice the policy manual, the different courses, insurance, benefits, FMLA. That gives you a synopsis of the orientation course. And then the next one, Lana. This is the annual training that we had touched base on, and Deb played such a big role, along with the team and Heather and everybody on the inclusion, diversity, and belonging. This is a mandatory annual training session within the company, and I believe, Heather, when we were speaking earlier today, we're at about as far as all governmental and EDC, probably around 60 percentile attendance, or was it, on the annual training?
No.
Go ahead. We conduct those ones on site, and we also go to your place. That one is.
We have them on our training calendar, and we will go on site. We probably have for annual training about 120 out of 700 employees. And I think part of that is because people realize they have till the end of the year to get that done.
Yeah.
So people just kind of aren't always in a big hurry. So Lana, could we have the next slide, please? So as Deb had mentioned, there was pre-COVID and then kind of living during COVID and then the aftermath of COVID. And I have to be honest that I wasn't here pre-COVID. It was mostly the aftermath. And managers and supervisors probably were at a disadvantage and maybe didn't get the attention that they would normally get because we were just trying to keep things alive with one person. So now we have met with Jeff Rogers, our employee relations supervisor, and worked really a long time with him and came up with the Management One series. And this is geared at managers and supervisors, new or a refresher, to help them with things like due process, the infraction chart, warning, layoff, termination, complaint resolution, grievance. It's to help people understand that process and to fill out the paperwork correctly following all our current policies and procedures. That has been a very well-attended and very well-received course, and I will tell you, it's probably the driest thing that we teach, but it has to be done. We have to follow everything we possibly can to move forward on Management One. And then if you can go to the next slide, it's Management Two, and this is working with Dusty Tanaik and her staff in employment to try to streamline the hiring process when the job's posting, making sure that it's signed by who it needs to be signed by, following the promotion policy, doing the personnel requisition, making sure with your interview you have the same people asking the same questions, following hiring preference, making sure that you're following the employment of related persons, and then filling out your personal action form and possibly provisional hiring if that is needed. We're just trying to streamline this as much as possible to help the managers and supervisors get qualified team members in place as soon as they possibly can. Those two were areas that were really identified when we had done a survey that looks like this. Cheryl's probably going to send some of these around. We did this survey back in February, and it was what managers and supervisors were saying we could really use some help on, some refresher. I will be honest, even when Deb or I, or if Cheryl did orientation, when you're in orientation, you get a lot of things thrown at you. It's a lot. And I think you probably absorb maybe 15 or 20% of what's going on. So it's nice to do these follow-ups. We also make sure that people have takeaways on all of these and examples, and it is online, and I can share it with somebody through PowerPoint if they can't make a class in person. But we have been out west, we've been to the health divisions out west, we've been to education, housing, natural resources, planning and development. We've been a lot of different places, and those have been very, very, very well attended. And we've kind of gotten a lot done with that. We've probably had, just for the management training, 99 managers have taken the training so far, which is obviously, overall we have 700 employees, but they're not all managers. So we're really, really happy and proud of that. We had somebody that now works for Thrive. She's a tribal member, Eli Morelli, that really helped pull that together for us. But that's out there, and we love that managers and supervisors are able to ask questions, which they can always ask of any individual in HR, but it's nice to have a session because you might ask a question that somebody else in that session wants the answer to also.
And I think a key add-on to those, not just the annual training, but the Management Series 1 and 2, is that you get the takeaway resource manuals to take with you also. So it's not only the in-person via Zoom, you also get the resource information to take back with you too. Go ahead on the next slide, Lana. So just to carry on, as we're talking about Management Series trainings that are always evolving. In your annual training sessions, it's really important to note the customized training sessions that we develop and we hold. These customized training sessions are based on team member requests within the company. There have been surveys that have gone through the company. They're available online. We've shared them at our governmental direct report meetings in the past where we survey team members, what type of training would you like to see? And we have developed with it our subject matter experts. We work with the IT department. We now have a takeaway manual or the online training if you need IT troubleshooting. We have Chronos, we have Outlook, JD Edwards, Microsoft 365, and more. So the customized training sessions that we do, these are per our team member requests. You know, I really need training in this, your Chronos basics. What was the one we were talking about, Lana? I think it was Chronos. And she said, you have the training for that? Absolutely, we do. We have in-company trainings that are actually built per our subject matter experts, like the IT department. We work with safety. We do the bloodborne pathogen. We develop that with them. So there's takeaway manuals, too, if you're not doing the training in person or via Zoom.
I want to also point out that we go to Lodge of Hope, and we work with individuals on their resumes, on cover letters, on how to search for jobs. A lot of times, I just want somebody to sit down with them and go over the list of the jobs that are available at the time. You know, really trying to help that next step. What can we do for the team member that's going to get them to that next step? And if you'll see, the first one on here was grammar and punctuation. We've had quite a few people that have contacted us lately about that. We're up for anything, and sometimes managers will contact us because they want to do these classes as part of a PIP, Performance Improvement Plan. There are different ways and different trainings that can be given to people depending on what they need. It's not just a one-stop shopping and one-size-fits-all. So of course, something that we do that's very near and dear to our hearts and I see all the feedback from the orientations, and I've got to say that most people love the most our 7 grandfathers in our 50-year Sioux tribe, what we've done, you know, become federally recognized and having that anniversary, and they always mention that, and that's in big part due to Deb.
Cultural training, next slide.
All right, so I do cultural training. I don't do as much as I used to pre-COVID because what happened was we had a nice flourishing training department, and then COVID hit and everybody quit, and I was the last one left, and I was just paddling to keep my nose above water, and thankfully, due to Beverly McLaren, who championed moving everything to e-learning, I was able to pivot very quickly into that environment along with going into the Zoom and e-learning. So that helped pull us through and get us through that very rough period of time for everybody. Some of the things that I have trained and what people like to do in the different departments is they will go, we're going to have our Christmas party, but we're going to also cover, since everybody's together, we're going to cover our customer service requirement and our sexual harassment prevention and inclusion and diversity training. So at that point, that's when they come to me and say, hey, Deb, can we put in a cultural component? One of the interesting ones that I've done was residential school histories, and that was pre-COVID. That was with ACFS. We did a whole presentation on that very difficult topic. Second, I've also presented at the Anishinaabe Language Conference with the elders, specifically the teachers, and I had come up with a language teaching model that encompasses phonetics, information on the double ferrule vowel system, and video, along with testing. So that was in the old learning management system, and I have like samples of it, and at some point I'd really like to get with somebody to maybe take down an ANA grant that would pursue this for use in Anishinaabe country. Of course, beating and the birch bark biting. The birch bark biting was easy and fun. We had a guy from the Sioux Dakotas come and present, and that was for the human trafficking. He didn't know anything about birch bark biting. So what it is that you peel off the birch bark, you bend and fold it, and then you start biting it. And what you are, when you open it up, it's for pattern preservation, but it creates these patterns of these different, butterflies and designs. And he was really surprised at the birch bark biting. And when he got up to present, he said, I have to say, I've seen a lot of, people working very hard, and there was a lot of, slobber filing everywhere, but good job, guys. So we go back into these old techniques, because this birch bark biting was pre-contact type of artwork. And I try and bring these kind of unsung heroes that you never really hear about to the forefront and share them with our people in our tribe. Because again, I don't want to see them becoming a lost art. So birch bark biting is definitely one of those things. The moccasin making, I do have a short video of that, and that was with our teacher, Leonard, and my young cousin, Elaine's daughter, Alicia, and they were working together to make moccasins. Another video that I have that's very precious is fry bread making with Grandma Edie, who has since passed away. She has a very clean method of creating fry bread, because if you've ever made fry bread, the flour goes everywhere. But if you look at this video, she shows you how to do it, and she was working with Ann Suggett at the USDA building. So we've been in all kinds of different situations where we've met the needs of the department and what they were looking for. And in this case, it was Ann Suggett with the Head Start teaching the teachers how to make fry bread for their kids. So it's been interesting for the last 7 years for sure. Let's see, and with that, I'm going to hand this back over.
Thank you, Deb. So as we look at the different software and courses and all of the e-learning and the history of the materials in the training department and expanding to multiple resources, we give credit to such examples like the professional development virtual training series we have. There's over 110 courses that also involves team member input and designing libraries for themselves and where they want to further their own professional development training. Guide to effective meetings, stress management. A lot of those are very popular courses, and on demand, there's over 110 right now. That gives you an example of the different types of professional development trainings we offer for all levels within the company. Next page, Lana. So in a nutshell, if you look at the calendar there, this gives a short synopsis of different types of orientation and trainings that we have on hand within the department. We do governmental orientation, EDC orientation, Zoom, in-person orientations, annual training sessions, management series 1 and 2, and your new supervisor training. That is catching those transfers coming in if they're going into another supervisory role within the governmental and EDC. So all of this information that we're sharing today is consistently posted within the company. Communications, the intranet, you can find a lot of information under the company intranet, under the human resources tab. The training department has their own information there, scheduling, resources, information such as that. So that, ladies, if I didn't forget anything else on what we have going on, does anyone have any questions for us as we get ready to wrap up and conclude?
Okay. Any questions so far, guys? Go ahead, Aaron.
I don't have a question, but I like the fact that you've moved in that direction. It was a couple years ago that Christine had identified one of the ways to push this information out would be to make it available, not contingent on the availability of somebody to do it physically or manually, but that we make it available. And then especially if there's a PIP, circling people back in. But I would say for customer service, it could probably be something that could be just cycled through every so often. Not if you have poor performance, but how do you keep top performance. So I think it's good that you guys are doing this.
Thank you.
And when you do the RISE courses online, you can take 5 minutes at a time. It just stops you where you are. Like, say you get interrupted because everybody is so busy, it will take you right back to where you were. You can take them over and over again. It lets us know when you're done with them. And then I've got people that are like, every time you have a new class, I want to see it. I'd like to take it. So it really does open up some avenues to other people. And we want people to grow within this tribe. They're maybe not going to be in the same position all the time, but we want them to be someplace else within the tribe. How can we help your skills to build you so that you can move around the way that you want in your 40-year career, hopefully here?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, I don't have a question, just a comment. I think you guys are doing a really good job. I knew that we were providing cultural training, but Deb, I didn't know that it was being provided at the extent that you're providing it, and I think that's awesome, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Same thing with the customer service, sexual harassment stuff, all necessary, all vital, so I appreciate the hard work, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Rob?
No.
Page Peak? I remember that, yeah.
That's-
Well, it's a good video because, I mean, like, if you can have fun at a job where you're handling raw fish all day, I mean, surely you can have fun working for the Sioux Tribe, right?
Maybe
That's
it's
the
been
goal.
long enough that we can bring it back for people that haven't seen it. Every once in a while, they'll ask about it, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
they do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Okay, guys, let's take a quick 5-minute break and then we'll jump into agenda review. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. The item that we're currently on is agenda review. I'm not sure if everyone's here, but we'll go through the list of resolutions, and who isn't here, we'll skip and we'll catch them last. So first up, cultural, IMLS, Initiative Art Establishment of FY 2025 budget. You want to cover that first, Jess? Okay, appreciate it.
This resolution is to establish a FY25 budget with the $41,806.13 for a grant that the library received, and they're going to provide Anishinaabe art workshops with the funding.
Okay, wonderful. Questions or comments on this resolution? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jess, appreciate it. Next resolution is Education TED Grant FY25 budget modification. We have Stephanie Sprecher, Education Director, online. Stephanie, if you could cover this, please.
Sure. Good afternoon. Sault Tribe Education was recently awarded a grant amendment for a one-year extension with additional BIA funds of $368,000. So this increases the total TED grant amount to $1,480,500. The budget modification in front of you of $328,720.56 increases the original budget from a 3-month budget, which was July 1st to September 30th, to now a 12-month budget, which includes actual amounts for July, August, and parts of September. So there's no effect on travel support for this. And planned expenditures include hiring a project specialist, which we're actually in the hiring process right now. We're excited about procuring contracted services to conduct an educational assessment, and then continuing to provide our $1,000 TED scholarships per semester to our full and part-time university and trade school students.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Questions, comments from the board? Start with Aaron.
Stephanie, will these funds be distributed with the same eligibility as last year?
For the scholarships?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Stephanie. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, the next one is from the Natural Resource Division. It is Escode Project Establishment of FY24 budget. Go ahead.
Buju, Robin Clark, AG, and Wendyang. So this budget would establish the first year of a 5-year funding award from the Forest Service, and it includes $68,750 to establish 2 contracts, 2 long-term contracts, one with Compass Resource Management to lead a structured decision-making process, and then one with Axiom Data Science to build this tribally controlled data portal for all of the boreal, remnant, or hemiboreal forest ecosystem data that we have.
Okay, wonderful. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, so we'll move on to the next one, and there's a series from Natural Resources. The next one is PFAS Establishment of FY 2024 and 2025 budgets.
Got it. Aneen, hope you guys are having a good afternoon thus far. So this is this resolution is to establish a budget for PFAS sampling, which, if you don't know what PFAS is, it's a synthetic compound, forever chemicals, those keywords. We want to enhance our tribal air monitoring program by also testing for atmospheric deposition for PFAS. And this would be adjacent to our national atmospheric deposition program. And it's for $75,000, and this will be establishing the first year.
Okay, thank you, Robin. Yeah,
Do
any
you want me to
questions?
keep going on
Yeah,
other
is
stuff?
there anything else to add?
Oh, no. Oh,
Okay, any questions, comments from the board on this? I'm not hearing any. Thank you, I appreciate it.
okay.
Okay, so the next one is Water Establishment of FY 2025 budget.
Yeah. So this is to establish the first year of a 2-year grant for our PPG, but this is all rolled into one, but we have 3 separate ones, which we'll be getting to. So this is for water, 106 water for the Clean Water Act. It will provide full-time employment to hopefully our soon wonderful water quality specialist that will be coming on soon, putting positive vibes. And it's to support our surface water monitoring program. And hopefully someday advance like into setting our own water quality standards.
Okay, thanks, Robin. Any questions, comments on this resolution? Okay, hearing none, we can move on to the next one, which is EPA GAP, establishment of FY 2025 budget.
So GAP is funding through the EPA that allows tribal environmental programs to gain capacity. It allows support for the environmental program manager, but also helping fill in spots for space costs for some of our other sections within our program.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on this resolution? Okay, hearing none, we can move on to the next, which is Brownfield's establishment of FY 25 budget.
It's in the same PPG as the other two previously, so it's the first year of the 2-year funding. Brownsfield is for contaminated sites, also hopefully someday environmental assessments, and it will help support a full-time, hopefully tribal employee someday. It's out and posted if anyone wants to venture over to the environmental department and skip being a board member, FYI. Like, you'd love to work for the AG in Owaindian, our Natural Resource Division.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments on this? All right, thanks, Robin. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Miigwech.
Next resolution is from the legal department. It is titled Prosecutor FY 2024 Budget Modification.
This was discussed last Tuesday. Two things are being accomplished. One, we are authorizing the current prosecutor to stay on for the remainder of this month to assist in the transition to the new prosecutor, and we are eliminating the assistant prosecutor position.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Any questions or comments from the board on this resolution? Appreciate it. Thank you. Next resolution is governmental, transportation planning FY 2024 budget modification.
Yes, this is a resolution for the Transportation Planning Department, cost center number 2930, to create a new position of transportation manager, and also to change the hours in the existing personnel sheet for the transportation specialist, which were budgeted for a full year, and the administrative assistant, which was budgeted for a full year. So the net effect of the three changes would be that it would be a savings to the department budget.
Okay,
And I
thank you,
believe it was
Bob.
workshopped last week.
Any questions or comments on this resolution? Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Next resolution is apply for the Nature Conservancy Whitefish Rehabilitation Project Grant.
Hello. The Nature Conservancy has approximately $50,000 to $60,000 of non-competitive funds to support our Atikamekw Lake Whitefish Initiative, and this is aligned with Nature Conservancy restoration goals. Currently, our whitefish hatchery has eggs and larvae in the hatchery for about 6 months. They require care for 7 days a week, so there's need for extra personnel for, and these monies get paid for fisheries aid for 7 months, so we'd like to apply for those.
Okay, appreciate it, Jack. Any questions, comments on this? All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next resolution is partial waiver of convictions for Mr. Brandon Nertoli.
All right, as we said last week in the workshop, Mr. Natoli was here. He's eligible for the partial waiver of convictions. He's in the drug court. Ms. Swan is here to represent the drug court if anybody wants to ask about how he's doing or anything like that.
Tracy, you want to come up front? Do either of you have any concerns about granting this waiver to this individual?
I do not.
Okay. What about you, Tracy?
Absolutely not.
You've been compliant and everything?
Absolutely. And just a kind of a brief overall, I'd gotten his permission to talk to you, and I think we missed last week's workshop to kind of relay what Mr. Natoli's been doing. But, you know, a 30-year-old kid, I call him, finally, you know, after 15 years of a substance abuse disorder and a life of crime, he just said, I'm tired. I don't want to sit in jail anymore. He was facing state court charges as well and said, I want treatment. We worked really diligently with the state court. They released him to us and said, get him up to treatment. Treatment took him in day one up in Lance, Baraga area. He successfully completed treatment and then came to us and started the drug court program, doing absolutely everything he was asked to do, including he couldn't see well, got his optical appointment, got his physical done, has a dentist appointment the end of this month. He does not have a driver's license. He calls, arranges for rides. He asks the court for assistance in rides. He's never missed an appointment. He's been on a really good path and in a life growing up that wasn't the greatest, and he recognizes that, but he's not falling back in any old habit. He was on tether for 60 days, did not abscond, didn't try to leave, has 3 little children at home, was a dealer here at the casino for years, and wants his job back now that he is sober and living a healthy life, and is on our reservation with his partner and his 3 children. Doing wonderful. Over 130 days of sobriety, and he's trucking along like this is a change, like he's finally at the point.
All right, awesome. Happy to hear he's doing so well. Aaron?
So he is a good kid. I still think of him as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, and this is exactly what drug court was established to do. This is exactly what our limited waivers is intended to do. If he's on the right path, we should be supporting him while he's on that path, and hopefully he'll stay on that path. How much more drug court does he have? Just
He's
estimate.
About 10 more months.
Yeah. So I support it. We didn't have this session last week, or did we? And I missed it?
Yep.
Oh, I missed it. I'm sorry. So, but I support it, so.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, thank you. We'll move on.
She may as well stay.
Tracy, you might as well stay. You got the next one. All right, next resolution is appointment of Christina DeMore as a appellate judge. It's an attorney position.
Thank you. As you might recall, back in August, the interview committee interviewed candidates, applicants for the position of reserve appellate judge, attorney appellate judge, community member judges. Our first selection for the attorney position, a vacant position on the Court of Appeals, was appointed by this board in August. When determining to enter into a contract, we learned of some issues, and I think you all recall those issues, which resulted in the resolution being rescinded, being 2024-269. So that left the vacant position again, and so we're here today asking that you reappoint Christina DeMore as the appellate attorney judge in place of Mr. Andy D.
Okay, any questions, comments on this? All right, I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, next resolution is award contract to Nomad Construction for renovations at the Tribal Administration Building.
Okay, so this is to award a contract to remodel a section of the Woolworths basement to accommodate more office space and extend accounting services, right? I believe is what we're looking to.
Well, we'll increase more internal service space, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions, comments from the board? Okay, thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Bob.
Perfect.
Next resolution is acceptance 2025 Indian Housing Plan. Okay, whenever you're ready, Vern.
Hello, everybody. I'm here today to request that the Board of Directors pass the 2025 Indian Housing Plan. Joni workshopped this with you, I believe. So does anybody have any questions regarding the 2025 plan?
Any questions, guys? And this was presented to us, what, a week, 2 ago, something like that? Yeah. Okay. No questions or comments?
Okay.
Thank you. And you're also the next one, so we'll cover that. Approve Housing Authority retention incentives.
We're requesting that the Board of Directors, let me look here a little better so I. Okay, Resolution 2024-218 passed by the Board of Directors. We're coming back to clarify that resolution when we started working on the incentives. That's one of the issues is we need to call instead of a retention bonus, a retention incentive, and that's for tax reasons for the individuals. And we also would like the retention incentive to be $1,000 per team member, and is the net amount to be grossed up to include the 401k benefits, payroll tax deductions, and any other required payroll withholdings.
Okay, any questions, comments on this? Aaron?
All right, so are we having difficulty retaining housing staff?
Yeah, we are having difficulty, and we did just go through with Bluestone, and we did wage adjustments. Well, we're working on that process, and.
Okay, so this is an interim measure while we're working on, just like the Head Start.
Well, actually, anyone who is getting a change in their wage would not be qualified for the $1,000 retention. This is for those who already are meeting the median of their positions, or our tribal wage ordinance positions as well.
If they're beyond the median or the mid, if they're beyond
The
that.
mid, yeah, it's
Yeah, if
mid.
they're beyond that, are they getting the incentive too, or?
Yes. I don't think that we have very many that are beyond the mid.
Oh, okay.
Other than those that we requested from the board in order to fill those positions, such as our maintenance positions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lana can give the history on this as well.
Just a brief history. The Board of Directors, and I can't remember if they did it before the election or right around that time, they already approved the Housing Authority compensation plan, and that did include the retention bonuses. I think the purpose of this one is just to change it from a bonus to the incentive and add all of the other stuff, so their net is the $1,000 bonus is the
That
way
is correct.
Yeah, so it's already all approved. This is just changing one aspect of it.
I appreciate that, Lana. Okay. Anything from anyone else? Go ahead, Kim.
How many vacant positions are out there?
I can think of 3 right off the top without, I know we have a carpenter that has been vacant for, and posted for about a month now. And we just received an applicant for that we're looking at, but 1 applicant. We have a resident service specialist, and we may have a couple more, but unfortunately, I don't really pay too much attention to all the different areas.
I'm not against this, but any bonus I've ever received, they taxed it. It's considered income, but.
It will be taxed. We're just asking that the amount of the incentive be higher.
$1,000.
Yeah. Yep.
It'll be taxed at the end of the year, like on income? Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Vern. Appreciate it. Next resolution is approving amended agreement with Huntington Bank for Reconnect 3 grant pledge deposit account.
Yes, this is a resolution to amend a previously an agreement that we had with Huntington Bank in regards to the broadband USDA grant. We went ahead and negotiated an agreement with Huntington. USDA wanted to change the language in it but it was significant enough change that legal wanted to go ahead and do a resolution in order to authorize the chairman to sign a new agreement.
Thanks, Bob. Any questions, comments from the board? All right, thank you, appreciate it. Next resolution is approving intellectual property use manual.
Good afternoon. This resolution is seeking to approve an intellectual property use manual that would establish internal and external procedures for the use of the tribe's intellectual property.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Any questions, comments? This is like the tribe's logo, things like that, obviously. Yeah, Bridget?
Can I be on the list?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm just clarifying, Josh, it doesn't really say specifically, it seems like in the past, it's been about the crane. But my concern is, with the tribal flag, which is basically the 4 directions medicine wheel, that's pretty standard across tribes. So I wondered if that is going to be included, or how we're, going to, I guess exactly what's included. And when we're talking like logos and stuff, or could we have some sort of attachment with that? Because it doesn't seem real specific when I read it about what we're doing. It's almost like whatever we're going to do, we have protection, but not specific. At least that's the way I thought about it. I guess my big thing came up was the medicine wheel flag issue.
Yeah, for the medicine wheel and flag, that is an item the tribe has a copyright on. So it would fall under the tribe's copyright. And for the logos that the tribe does not have a copyright on, that would just fall under the logos exception. And the logos that have trademarks, that would fall under that. It's just an umbrella term, intellectual property, and we can look at defining what we consider to be the tribe's intellectual property.
Does that answer your question, Bridget?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. All right, thank you, Josh, appreciate it. The next resolution is waiver of sovereign immunity and consent to waiver of tribal court jurisdiction, TransUnion LLC.
This resolution is seeking to grant a waiver and consent to jurisdiction in the state of Illinois with a contract with TransUnion, and I'll let Mike Pins discuss on what the contract entails.
The contract for TransUnion is our credit reports on backgrounded employees, gaming licensed employees in HR. We had a snag with LexisNexis and their lack of being able to accommodate our needs. So the waiver will be just for the fees due and owed to them, and that's the only waiver that we would give. It's not for anything other in the contract language.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Any questions, comments from the board? Okay. Josh, do you see any issue waiving sovereign immunity on this?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it. Next resolution is benefit package for key employees, executives, and attorney positions within the tribal organization.
Hello, Christine McPherson, Executive Director. What this resolution will do is formalize our benefit package for key employees, executives, and attorneys. We've never had a formalized benefit package. We have one for governmental, we have one for health professionals. And so what this will do is allow us, as we went through this last year, it's been harder to recruit key employees, and it didn't really offer the benefit package that we'd like to offer. So this puts us more formalized and consistent for
appreciate
hiring.
it. Bridget, you had your hand up. Would you like to speak on this?
No, I was going to mention doctors, but she had mentioned medical, so thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? So this would be relevant for key employees. Would this be able to provide those days off to key employees that, let's say, for instance, that we've hired within the last year?
Yes. What this will do, it does say that we can look at any that have been hired in the past 3 years, if we have not honored that. Because we have hired, my review of an executive that we didn't allow it because we didn't have a policy. So we'll take a review of those.
Yeah, I'm going to ask that the board support this. So we've hired some key employees within the last year, and days off was something that was overlooked. So we have people in executive level positions that can't take a paid vacation at this point. So this is reasonable. So
Right, our current policy requires 6 months of being on the job without taking any vacation. And that's where the policy reads for that, and that's a long time for a key employee. When we just talked about we like them to take their vacation, what this is going to do is give them additional days up front. It doesn't have them accrue it at a higher level, but they'll have the ability to take vacation and sick time.
that's people who we hired out of state go home and visit their family. So
Right.
appreciate it. Thanks, Christine.
Yep.
All right, next resolution is separation of powers request for secretarial election. Rob put this on, so Rob, if you want to speak on it.
Yep. So in 2005, the board approved a plan to install a committee of members comprised of members from all voting units. These members convened and in 2008 brought forward a new constitution that includes articles that are essential to the separation of powers of governmental authority. What we have today in front of you is an extraction of those articles that are essential to the separation of powers that were developed by this committee. So we've talked about it long enough. So I decided to put it forward in an amendment, and here we are.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Any questions, comments from the board? Start with Aaron.
Okay, so I'll elaborate a little bit more. In 2005, the board established a constitutional convention and appointed a diverse population of people who you wouldn't imagine would be able to be in the same room together. And the group, though, over 2 years, carefully drafted a series of amendments in a new constitution. So you could look at it one of two ways, either they're amendments or it's a new constitution. And that group, even as diverse as they are and in as much disagreement as they could be on and in, they agreed on a final draft. And it was presented to the board of directors in 2007. And so what Rob has pulled forward, and I want to make this really clear because there's a lot of people out there demonizing Rob for bringing this forward. I appreciate that Rob's bringing it forward because I did for, 17 years and it kept getting tabled. And tabling is not a bad thing if something happens as a result. So if we table or refer tonight and we have a plan for how we're going to review it, I'm okay with that. And so I know I'm seeing some messages already by some of my supporters who are upset that I'm saying that, but also if we're trying to get something done and we try to bully or beat each other up over the head to get it done, it's not going to happen because we need 7 votes. And so 7 people have to agree. I do believe there's 3 or 4 people who under no circumstances will agree to do anything. And so I think that's only 3 or 4 people. So we still potentially have enough votes. So what Rob has put forward gives fidelity to the Constitutional Convention Committee who drafted this up 17 years ago and then reviewed again in 2012. But it's not doing everything. It's taking out those items that are the most important. Separation of powers, Bill of Rights, and our sovereignty. Those are very important issues. What it's not, and what this draft is not, is apportionment. Doesn't say anything about Unit 6 or at large. Doesn't say anything about Mackinac Band issues or secretarial election. And while those are very important issues, I think that those can happen subsequently. Because the most important thing, and it's taken some maturity for me to get to this point, is the separation of powers. In the past, I did not support bringing anything forward unless it did all of it, but that is never going to happen. So that's a pipe dream. It's never going to happen. this could happen. I do think that there's probably maybe 7 votes to make this happen. Separation of powers, Bill of Rights, and sovereignty. So the final thing I think I wanted to say was, as if we do create a series of workshops, like maybe on another day to meet, because we do have a busy October, and then we're going to get into the holidays, and if we wait till January, then it's 1 year from the next election cycle, then there are a bunch of pandering, or people won't support it. I do think we need to add another day, like maybe for the month of October, November, a Wednesday or a Monday or whatever day we can fit, and start focusing in on just a couple of amendments. Again, the separation of powers, Bill of Rights, and sovereignty. The final thing I want to say, because I know it's going to come, is we have no shortage of people who feel they have the corner on what our culture is and what it isn't. That is itself a colonial concept. Nobody should be standing up and preaching what is our culture and what isn't our culture. That's religion. That's what priests do. This draft and the separation of powers came from the Iroquois Confederacy Great Law of Peace. And if you know our history, we descend from the Algonquin, and we follow that. In the old days, we followed that way. The concept was, and this is our contribution as American Indians to the whole world, democracy did not exist until the United States colonial powers came to the United States, and they were looking to draft a better union, and that was the Iroquois Confederacy Great Law of Peace. So we couldn't be more traditional by adopting a separation of powers. What we have now is a corporate charter with the chairman and a board of directors. Where do you see that? You don't see that in governments. You see a president in the Senate or legislature, and it's time for us to take and throw off the BIA and Department of Interior and that corporate structure which was designed to expropriate the rest of our natural resources. We shouldn't give any more credence to the federal government creating a chairman and a board of directors. We should be an Ogima and a council. That is our Indian way. That's my opinion. So I will support referring it, not tabling it, but referring it to a board review over the next 2 months to bring it back for some kind of an enactment, maybe before Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. Tyler?
I'll support that because I support the separation of powers, but it needs to be done responsibly. Like, we get one shot to do this right for the tribe. And I think we need to do that right by our employees too, because we need to figure out line by line every piece of code that this is going to affect before we put our tribe in this situation. So I would support that. You know, that's what we were discussing, is workshopping this together. And, you know, Rob, you did say, like, we've been talking about this forever and it was never put on a workshop. You can put any item on a workshop. So, yeah. So, yeah, I support this, and I support your suggestion of Ogimon Council as well. I mean, it's far beyond time we eliminate the board of directors. So. Eliminate the board of directors.
Isaac?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Aaron. I agree that we should take some time to review this. I agree in the separation of powers. I mean, I thought we were waiting for the Elder Advisory Committee to get back to us. So if we pass this tonight, won't we be kind of stepping on them in the meantime? Which I don't approve of. You know, I respect my elders, so I'll wait for their response before I move forward.
Okay, anyone else? Rob, then Kim.
So I could kind of see how this is going, but I'd like to address a couple things there. The first thing is that we need to address every single code that this is going to affect. That's not the way it works when you separate the powers. You separate the powers constitutionally, and then the court reviews laws and determines which ones are constitutional and not. The constitutional amendment specifically calls for the chairman to work with the chief judge to bring forward a list of laws that are not in alignment with the Constitution, so your legislative branch can then address those laws and then have that go to judicial review through the court system. That's the way that works. So for us to sit here and say that we're going to review every single law is then assuming that we're still in control. And when you put that kind of, duty in the hands of a board that right now assumes all control, we would have the ability to manipulate how much control through code we have, even if we were to separate the powers. So we need to be careful of that. The other thing is, when I hear directors say, we need time to review this, this was published in 2008. You should know the legislative history of your tribe, and it's not just some group that came together and decided to do it. This was an official board action with an official plan for a project that was established in 2005. The committee was appointed in 2006. They worked 2 full years on it, bringing it to every single unit, and brought it forward in 2008. The committee reconvened in 2012, reaffirmed this. So every single person on this board sitting here right now has had 17 years to review this. So I'm not going to listen to, we need time to review it. You should have already done it. It's a legislative action by your tribe, and you guys are legislators. So that's where I stand on it. You've had a long time to review it. So we can hide behind this group's doing it, that group's doing it, all we want, but after 3 years of sitting at this table, I think it's time to do something.
Okay, Kim Gravel?
Okay, at the meeting in Munising, I had requested a workshop for this, and Lana says we're meeting with the elders October 22nd, correct? And then we decided we're going to meet on November 6th to discuss it, so I'm good with deferring it. Not tabling, but deferring. I agree, it's got to be done.
Aaron?
So, I want to be really careful because I'm trying to take a new approach in my life, right? Because the old approach sure didn't work. 17 years, and I put it on the agenda so many times, and it got tabled so many times. Nobody took any other effort to try to bring it forward during that time period, and I know many of you were not on the board then. Austin was consistent in supporting, Betty was consistent, but I want to be careful not to alienate anybody, and so I think our better approach, our better angels, is to look to what this can change, and we not presume, because I do have my suspicion there's certain people that are never going to support it, but that we don't presume that somebody's intent is that they won't support it just because we're referring it. I agree. I want to thank Rob for having the courage to put it on the agenda, because sometimes it's difficult when you have to go it alone. And I also agree with what he said, is we've had a long time to review the draft. It's been out there in the ether. I have a background and a graduate background in political science, public administration, so I understand it. I do think it's ready to go. And like Rob said, we don't have to enact laws, and you could ask Schleber this, I don't want to put him on the spot tonight, but to enact all the laws that will comport with the draft. And why do I know that, or how do we all know that? The United States Constitution was established. It's a living document. Legislation was written after the Constitution was established. Legislation has to be consistent with your supreme law. So the legislature will be left up to draft what the impact or how it will be implemented. There's nothing that would preclude us from adopting a new constitution, and then the legislature over the next 6 months or the year after, or even before, we could start working on promulgating a draft compliance with the new constitution and make those structural changes in the next year. It's going to take a year to adopt a new constitution, because you got to get the secretary, you got to request it. They have to appoint a board to do it, a 3-panel review board. So we have plenty of time to do the details as we request a secretarial election for a separation of powers. But come back to the only way this is going to happen is at least 7 votes agree for it to happen. So it's better for us to try to find ways to collaborate and to compromise rather than call each other out for not supporting it. I know we're going to get hit hard tonight, some people who are divisive and they want something else, but if we're thinking about the best legacy we can leave for our people, leaving a constitution with a balance of power that can transcend our lifetime is one of the best things you could do. And I think we should all want to be part of that because we haven't been able to do it since 1972. Maybe we're the board that will be able to make it happen. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Anyone else? All right, let's move on then. No, it's all right. All right, so next resolution is allocating ARPA funds for Marquette Community Center renovations. Tyler?
This is just a follow-up from what I had asked at the last meeting. Just to complete the full project in Marquette, to make sure the site plan's done, IT work is done, all that other stuff. We do have some obligated funds. I spoke with Bob about that. You know, Andrew, he does a great job managing our facilities. He asked if we could get this done right. One of the suggestions he had is to put it through transportation. But as I had mentioned, out of all of the units, Unit 5 only received $4 million total in ARPA funding because there was only one board member, where every other unit received a minimum of $8 million. So the request is just $800,000 to see through the full functionality of the facility. It'll still be remodeled internally, but I'm hoping that we can just get it done.
Okay, any questions, comments? Aaron?
So I'll just say I support it because that community, you know, we're halfway there and we can't not finish. And this community's been waiting for this for 20 years as well. So I support it.
Well, follow up with the community that's being built there around the drum. Last night, we had well over 200 people attend our Orange Shirt Day in the city of Marquette. So we're being recognized now as part of that community, and having a hub for people to gather is extremely important.
I can add to that. I attended the community picnic at the community center in Marquette, and it was packed. There was as many people at that community center as I've seen in any of the units. So Marquette is really energized, and they're really grateful and appreciative of the tribal assets and the resources that are spent over there. So I'm supportive as well. And, you know, health, when run correctly, can be run as a service and as a business. And some of these new expanded health programs are producing revenue that's more than some of our businesses, you know, so that's a really good thing. So, all right, so let's move into new business.
Yeah.
Do I have another one? Did I miss one? Oh, Aaron, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is your item. So it is authorization to apply for nonpartisan Native government mini grant.
Okay, so there are funds available right now through the National Congress of American Indians to encourage your tribal citizens to participate in the upcoming election. These are nonpartisan. You can't campaign for one candidate over another, but what you can do is you can push what a tribal sovereignty ticket looks like. The hope is that if tribes get these mini grants, that federal candidates, senators, House representatives, and presidential candidates will not ignore the Native vote. The Native vote can determine the outcome in this election. And I don't care who tries to outbid each other for president. If you have a platform that's going to be supportive of Indian country, then you'll have my support. But this is basically just to authorize the chairman and our legislative department to draft up an application so we can get those funds. I think we could potentially get $30,000 to do a direct mail, nonpartisan, just to encourage people to vote, how to register to vote, and to vote. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Questions or comments from the board? Okay, thank you. Let's move on to new business. So first up, Conservation Committee requests. All right, let's see here.
I'm on, Chairman.
You want to speak on it, Clarence?
Well, there's just two there. I believe there's a license transfer, commercial fishing license transfer, unanimously passed by the committee. The other one is a medical monitoring permit. We had a member approach the committee who is not in very good health, would like to have his family member, immediate family member on the boat with him to be able to monitor his health in case something happens maybe diabetic issue or something, emergency, the person, whoever would be on the boat cannot engage in treaty activity whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. I know that legal and law enforcement worked on the language. Ryan, if he's there, he can expound on that. So those are the two that are on for tonight for the committee.
I can speak on a little bit too. So first up for the license transfer, that's going to go from Christopher Packin to Lucas Riordan. And I was at that conservation meeting. So for a lot of our captains, it's difficult for them to get helpers, right? And some of those captains have health problems. And due to safety concerns, they want to have someone else on the boat. Sometimes it's a family member, but in a lot of cases, those individuals are non-tribal. So like Clarence mentioned, it isn't to help, it isn't to bring in fish or anything like that. It's just in the event of an emergency. Yep, so Ryan, if you want to speak, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just elaborate just a little bit on the medical monitoring permit we put together. It is allowable under the Corps regs. And I did work with Bob Marchand to figure out the parameters. So it would be immediate family members only, and they are limited in duration. So every 90 days it has to be renewed. And it has to be a verified medical condition that requires the assistance, like Clarence mentioned, like a diabetic coma or something that needs an emergency medical assistance, and they have to supply verification from their physician showing what the condition is and what the necessity of the medical monitor on board their vessel will be and how they would prevent life-threatening episodes. And so I fleshed that all out with Bob Marchand. We have the permit ready to go. We wanted to get the board's blessing before we fully implemented it. That's why we're coming here tonight.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Bridget?
Yeah, I was online during the conservation meeting. The person that wanted that permit wanted his wife to be able to drive the boat. So I know that it was corrected that she can't do that. So I hope that he understands that it's not to have extra help on the boat. It's in case something happens with his health.
And Bridget, I did speak to the fisher who did bring this forward. When he brought it forward a few weeks ago, we told him, no, we don't have any kind of policy. We would need to create that policy before we could issue such a monitor. And we wanted to make it fair and equal access to everyone who might have verified medical conditions. And I made it very clear, there's no fishing activity, including driving the boat. And if they get popped for a ticket by a conservation officer because their medical monitor is engaging in treaty activity, then they're going to get a ticket, just like they would if they didn't have this permit. So this permit's not going to protect them if they're using it improperly.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Clarence, was the Conservation Committee supportive of this? Do you guys recommend it as an advisory body to the board?
Yes, they were. I believe that it did pass unanimously also.
All right, thank you. All right, so let's move on to committee appointments / resignations. There are quite a few. The first one is Boyd Snyder is requesting to resign from the election committee. So we'll need to fill that seat. Any questions there? Okay, the next one is Food Sovereignty. Paula Finfrock is requesting that she be appointed to the Food Sovereignty Committee. This would fill Colleen Medicine's position. Any questions there? And I'm going to go back to the election committee one. Yeah, Isaac just asked if we could send Boyd Schneider a thank you letter. And yep, we can definitely take care of that.
Do we do any exit surveys for committee members? Because I'd like to know if there's any real issues that they feel that drove them to resign that we need to be aware of.
I don't think so. We could have them here.
I don't think we need to call them here. I would just like to implement maybe a exit survey, just so we could see when someone resigns from a committee, is there something that we need to fix?
Yeah, we can work on that. Yep. Okay, so we'll move on to Unit 2 Elder Committee, Newberry resignation. Eldon Whalen Jr., an alternate, term set to expire May 2026, submitted his resignation. Once accepted, this vacancy will be posted. Any questions there, comments? Okay, so we'll move on. For Unit 3 Elder Committee, St. Ignace resignation and appointment. Linda Marshall, regular member, term set to expire April 27, submitted her resignation. Once accepted, this vacancy will be posted. Any questions there? Comments? Okay, hearing none. Also in Unit 3, Teresa Weller is seeking to fill an alternate seat previously vacated, and this seat would expire on March of 2028. My apologies. Any questions, comments there? Okay, then we'll jump to Unit 4's Elder Committee, Manistique resignation. Sharon Martin Barber, a regular member, term set to expire on November 2026, submitted her resignation, and once accepted, this vacancy will also be posted. Any questions or comments there? Okay, I'll most likely cover all these at once because there's quite a few tonight, unless there's objections. And then we have membership adoptions. Do we have Julie Salo somewhere?
Stacy is going to fill in for her.
Do you want to fill in real quick, Stacy, and just let us know what's going on?
Microphone.
You got to press the button, though.
All right, now?
Yeah.
All right, so we discussed these when we came, I think, what day was that? The 26th? 24th, oh, that was close. In that vicinity. All right, so we came and we had talked to you about the family that had collateral rather than, rather than direct. And so they're going to be here tonight to have that decided on by you guys. I don't really want to say any names. Is that okay?
It's just under new business, so someone would have to make a motion. So basically, someone can trace a relative back to one of these roles. It's not a direct relative like a grandfather, it's like a great aunt or something like that, which if
Exactly.
you're related to a great aunt, you're related to that common ancestor that would be Native American, so.
Like, this person's brothers, sisters are on the roll.
Yep,
They share the
brothers and
same parents,
sisters.
but she was off.
Yep, something.
And so somehow she got missed.
Okay, Aaron?
So just to add for people who might be listening, and maybe somebody should say this later as well, is first of all, there's a misnomer out there that we have a whole bunch of adopted members in the tribe. We never have had a whole bunch of adopted members of the tribe. And in this case, without, because the person's going to come and it's on the agenda, so it's public, but just to, without divulging any of their individual information, there are Indian people that are blood relatives the same as people who are enrolled, but because the United States government was purposely trying to undercount American Indians, they didn't get counted timely. They're the same, they have the same blood as not well-enrolled members, but descendants. They have the same blood, but they just didn't happen to be counted when the census counters were coming around to count people. They have the same legal documents that you have to prove lineage to that person. So they are Indian people. And, you know, we had a nice talk the other week, last week, about not letting the federal government continue to dictate who is our blood relatives and who's not, because they may not have been present when they were doing the counts. So they're collateral, meaning that they are the same blood relatives and they are otherwise eligible. They're just not listed on the census document.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so is the enrollment department supportive of this adoption?
We are, yep.
Okay, all right. Final opportunity, questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
Chairman, I have a question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I want to make sure we're clear here. I believe the plan was to bring two adoptions, right, Stacy? There's two people in this scenario. I was cutting out, so I just didn't know if that was put to the board, that there is two adoptions tonight, and they're under the same set of circumstances, tracing back to the same ancestor.
Yep, it's the same family that we spoke about on the 24th. So there was 2 adults and 1 child, and they are the same family, and they would all be collateral descendancy. Is that what you're talking about, Ryan?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we were going to do all that family adopted at once. Was the plan. Yeah, I couldn't hear the conversation. I apologize. My connection was cutting out. I just want to make sure that was said. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Kim Gravel?
The child is under 18,
That's correct.
so the child won't have to be adopted once the adults are enrolled,
Yes, they
that
still
child.
do.
can enroll because the parent's adopted, right, or is enrolled?
No, they still have to be adopted in just the same, because it's collateral, it's not.
So until policy changes,
not a
if you're the
regular
descendant of someone adopted, you have to be adopted. All your kids do.
Correct.
Right.
We're working on bringing to the enrollment committee some language. Julie and I have some language to help plug that hole that we talked about last week's workshop, and that will be discussed at the enrollment committee this month, and then we'll bring it to the board for discussion as well.
Okay, my question is, if they're adopted and we change the policy to collateral or the code, are these adopted people automatically full-fledged members? No, they were adopted. Does that change for every?
So they have to trace, correct? To be adopted in, they have to trace. We don't just adopt anybody in. They have to trace, they have to be a part of this area. There is going to be verbiage that Ryan and Julie have spoke about that will be brought to committee and then to the board, and it will address all of that.
So if they trace collateral, then they're going to be, okay. That was my concern is, okay, once we change it, because you don't go back and bring people forward. So.
Okay. Aaron?
So that was a really good question, because unless we grandfather them and pull them over from adoption into fully fledged, then if we don't do that, and I would be inclined not to do that, but to have them apply for full membership in the normal course, they would then be eligible if we adopt the collateral. Then it would be left with enrollment to be able to enroll them. So, yeah. So the reason for that is because there could be some confusion with adopted members, because there are some adopted members in that pool that are not part of that. They were adopted because they're Indian. We believe them to be Indian, and they got affidavits. And I don't know if any of those people are left, because that's 20 years ago or so, because we didn't adopt anybody since 1998 or 1997.
Yeah, that was way before my time, so.
Yeah, and so there may not be anybody in that adoption pool still, but we don't want to mislead people to believe that if they're adopted, all of a sudden, because of the collateral, they're going to be enrolled. Only the limited group of people that become eligible because of the collateral policy change. So I think we should let them apply in the normal course, like everybody else did.
So I believe that it'll be made clear in the verbiage that Ryan and Julie have been going back and forth on, what the proper channels will be, or what we'll suggest as an enrollment board, because it'll be taken to the committee first, and then it'll be brought to you guys, and by the time it gets to you, it'll be clear. And then if you guys want to add or take away something, I'm sure that can be arranged.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any last questions, comments on this? Oh, go ahead, Kim.
This group doesn't want to wait, though, correct? They want to be adopted.
So, as far as I know, that is the case, and that's what we're here for tonight.
Right, because last week I had recommended asking them to wait, like Aaron was saying.
I don't know what the whole group said, it was the gist of it. It seemed like all of you guys were in agreement to have them come tonight. Is that incorrect?
Kim, if I can elaborate maybe. My understanding during our workshop, we discussed multiple options. They could hold off on being adopted, wait till we get a code fix. Hopefully it wouldn't take long, but sometimes we do take longer than we anticipate to do a code fix. So the thought, and my understanding was the consensus, and I could be wrong, so you can correct me if I am, it was to go ahead and we'll put through the adoptions while we work on the language for the collateral descendancy, and we'll create the mechanisms where those people that if the adoption goes through tonight, then they can apply or have whatever mechanism that we end up adopting in the future to become like fully enrolled members, not have that adoption tag in their file. So that's why we're still asking the board tonight to go ahead and adopt them, because they meet all the criteria in 11-113 while we workshop with the committee and the board the code language that we're going to propose to kind of plug this hole, and then we can help this family apply or whatever it is to become full fully enrolled or whatever you want to term it.
Okay.
Okay, Isaac, then Bridget.
Hey, Ryan, you're absolutely correct. That's what I think I made a suggestion, that let's let him get adopted, because Rob can agree with me. This board moves at a snail's pace.
Okay, Bridget.
So, are these adopted members, do they get a normal tribal card like everyone else?
They will.
And okay, so the only difference is it's noted in their file they're adopted.
Yes. I believe there are some benefits that they don't qualify for.
Is there a way that?
The ones that trace, they will qualify for everything, correct? The ones that don't qualify for certain things, so.
Is there a way that you guys could send us an email or just showing the adoption and a regular member, what they qualify for, so we can kind of wrap our heads around that?
Yep, we can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then Stacy, you're saying if you can trace lineage, if you're adopted, that's a different category as well. So if you can spell all that out, I'd appreciate it.
Correct. There are different coding that we have in the computer that shows for us, when we run a report or what have you, that shows what these different people qualify for.
Okay, thank you. Aaron?
Different groups.
So adopted members are not eligible to run for office. They're not eligible unless they descend. They're not eligible for treaty rights.
That's correct.
Or elder dividend. So, but you could be an adopted member, and we do have this situation, that do descend and have the blood to be able to get their treaty rights and do fishing.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you, Stacy. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any board concerns tonight, guys, that we want to cover before the meeting? Okay, then we will be on break until 5 o'clock when the meeting starts. Thank you.
The recording has stopped.